Hi folks, welcome back to Reread, where I'm rereading through the expanded universe in chronological order, something no one should ever do unless you've read it before. I had to stop myself last time because I didn't want to get too far ahead in the series, and I realized I was about to spoil some other things. So today I'm going to talk about Knights of the Republic, written by John Jackson Miller, issues 19 through 24. The story continues where we find out what Camper's been working on. Oddly enough, the Arcanians have a bunch of space slugs that they found out that they can control. They have these like control devices on them, and so it's an army of space slugs, which you can tell would be very powerful, right? Because their skin's real thick, they devour ships and stuff, and there's just a ton of them. They can make them procreate and control those too, and basically have their army of space slugs. It's very unique, and it's a callback to an alien species we saw in Empire Strikes Back, so I thought that was really awesome. And of course, the Arcanian leader, who's basically captured Jarael and is forcing Camper to do his bidding, is now going to sell it off to the highest bidder. He calls the nearest admiral in the Republic close to his home planet, which happens to be the one that has Zane captured. And so he goes to that planet. And then he calls in, of course, there's a Jedi. Squint comes back into play. And it's funny because Jarael is his prisoner, but he says, "You have to be here to greet my guest." But he has no idea. He's shocked when she realizes Zane. That's a funny moment. I told you about comedy in this. Great comedic moment where he goes, "Now remember, be friendly, greet our people, greet our guest." And so they all come off the thing. She sees Zane, and then she kisses him because she's so happy to see him. And then there's like 3 panels of this going on, the kiss, and then the rest of them, the Arcanian, one of his henchmen, look confused, and then the kind of henchman looks up at the Arcanian and goes, "Well, you did tell her to be friendly." It's just funny. It's funny. It's so funny. Also, I should also mention they're testing Jarael's blood for something, and we don't know what. Later on, the scientists find this out and go, "This is incredible," but some dark, mysterious figure kills them both and says, "Yes, and it's my secret to hold on to, not yours." So something is special with Jarael. We don't know yet in the comic book. If you've read it before, obviously you know, but at this point we don't know yet. We don't even know who killed those other 2 lab, maybe they weren't scientists, but lab experts or whatever, with the results. So we know something special with Jarael. And anyway, so Camper is trying to figure out a way to escape. He's asking Jarael if she can get to a safe place, if they can get out of here. But Zane is there. Squint is there. She recognizes Squint, and they're like, "Do you know everyone in this galaxy?" It's like, how do you know everyone? And of course, the Mandalorians get invited. Because they're, well, almost screwed up there, but their Mandalorian friend that we think is okay right now calls them to this conference, and the Arcanians are like, highest bidder gets all this space slug army, and he's getting a little too big for his britches because he wants all the power. He wants them to report to him. He's looking for nothing but power. Well, one of his old friends is Lucian Gray, who comes to visit him uninvited. He drugs Lucian Gray and ties him up with another prisoner they just got, Zane Carrick. So it's funny that that's how one of the comic book issues end, where they're both tied up together. He kind of wakes up, he's like, "Where am I?" He's like, "It's not where you want to be." And he and Zane are tied together. Another funny scene is when they eventually break out, because they're Jedi, so they break out of their little prison together. Once Lucian gets his lightsaber, he turns around and makes a slash to kill Zane. But Zane has some plates that were created by Camper that can block lightsabers, and they don't really say what it is. Camper's like, "Well, it's some secret alloy I found." And I mean, you could guess what it is, right? Knowing what we know about the expanded universe, there are certain alloys and minerals that can stop lightsaber blades. So it's probably one of those. If they mention it later on, I don't remember, and I don't think they mentioned it in the book because I was in the comic book because I was waiting to see if they did. I could have been wrong. They could have mentioned it, but I remember Camper saying, "Well, just an alloy. You don't need to know how it was made or whatever." Either way, though, it's not far-fetched that they would give him those. So it blocks the lightsaber attack, and Lucian goes, "Well, I had to try. Like, okay, you're not that easy to kill. I got to focus on getting out of here. We need to focus on stopping all this." They bust up negotiations, start a big infighting war between the Mandos, the Republic, the Jedi. I mean, just craziness is going on, and of course it's crazy whenever Zane's involved. And at the end, the space slugs go. Camper, basically. There's a really great scene with Camper. Like, he had everything planned, the escape route and everything, and turns the space slugs against the Arcanians. And so everything's falling around, all around the Arcanians. They've lost control of negotiations and the space slugs, and they're destroying the station. Lucian's like, okay, hey, you got to come with me because this is the only way out. Zane, and Zane's like, oh yeah, oh no, I guess I'm gonna have to go with you. And of course, come crashing in is the two Ithorian bounty hunters, along with Slissic, and they're like, hey, and he's like, hey, you're alive? He's like, yeah, and Griff is too. I don't think we're ever given the reason why. I think Griff says, yeah, I'll tell you later. But the story's never told. It doesn't have to be told, because I think it's funnier that way, that they just somehow survived. I mean, there's a few people who got off the planet, and it wasn't like they saw the beam coming down as they were about to die. They just knew they didn't have any gas, and the Mandalorians were here. So in between that time, they could have escaped, and obviously they did. No one thought, even when I was reading it the first time, I knew Griff wasn't dead. But anyway, he escapes with them instead. They're going back to Taurus, which is basically, already occupied by Mandalorians. But Lucian knows this. He has one of his Jedi Seers there, and it's the one who's been having a lot of nightmares lately. She's been kind of worried about, her visions are getting more erratic, and she's getting more erratic. So he puts her on a mission. This is the last little two-part series here. He puts her on a mission to kill Zane Carrick while he's there. Well, she has one of her, Zane's old friends, sisters. One of the Padawans who died, his sister. This was mentioned in the first 6 issues. Zane kind of had a thing for her, and so she appears before him. He's like, oh, I think her name is Shell or whatever, Shell. It's like, oh no, he runs up to her and she runs up to him, and then she shoots him. And he's carrying a briefcase of how Griff can communicate with people outside of the Mandalorians have kind of blocked communications, but Griff has a special device that can bust through those communications on the planet. And she shoots the suitcase instead, but the stun gun kind of hits him too and kind of knocks him out. But she can't bring herself to kill him, even though she hates him. It turns out where Zane had very early in the series had sent all his money to the families of these survivors, she turned around and put that money on a bounty on his head, which I thought was really funny too. It's like, wait, you took that money and made a bounty on it? She's like, well, it was, but then Taurus got, invaded by the Mandalorians. We've been kind of stuck with it, stuck with this invasion. Again, humor. Oh, also, Tales of the Jedi is mentioned a little bit. Remember, it took place about, as far as I can tell, 30 30 years ago. And so Master Arca's mentioned. There's a few, I already told you Exar Kun was mentioned. But there's a few, Tales of the Jedi mentions in this book, which there should be because it didn't take place that long after. But some things like, oh, how would you know that, Zane? That happened before you were born, because he's kind of a younger Padawan. But either way, though, at the end of this 2-part series, I should mention, more comedy. Man, there's tons of comedy in this. But what happens is, in that briefcase where the communications were, that the person who had hired Griff was hired to kind of help out the governor, or help find the governor's kids, I think, which they do, and that's really funny how that kind of worked out. But after that's done, the guy double crosses Griff, and there he planted a thermal detonator, a big bomb inside of that briefcase. And when he sets it off, something happened. It misfired. So wait, what's wrong with the bomb? Well, it took a stun blast earlier, which overcharged some of the cells and bust out some of the cells, so it's not a working bomb anymore. I mean, you talk about dumb luck, and it fits perfectly within the storyline because it's funny. Because Griff's like, I've been carrying that thing around the whole time. He feels sick. He went, I feel sick because there's a doctor in the house, and it's just great stuff. And also, the Ithorian bounty hunters, who I guess are part of their crew now, one goes, ooh, can I take this bomb? I love bombs. And they're like, you love bombs? Yeah, did I not mention that? Oh, I love bombs. I love making things go boom. And then, of course, this bounty hunter fixes the bomb. The Ithorian bounty hunter fixes the bomb. It's like, oh, please, can I set it off? Please, please, please. It's so comedic. Zane, I should mention, one of the Jedi Masters, of course, tries to kill him. There's a battle, and Zane is, just trying to defend himself with his own lightsaber. He has a jetpack trying to get away. And with the help of Griff, he does get away, but as the building that she's on top of is crumbling, about to fall, he decides, this is the classic thing, the good guy trying to save the Jedi Master. Zane's like, come here, I can't, he said, we've had enough death. I can't let you die. She went, you would let me live? You want me to live? I'm trying to kill you. She's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. Come on. Enough people have died. And she goes, okay, hold on, my hand's stuck. And of course she's calling with the Force or lightsaber. She can get one final strike at Zane. But Griff sees that a mile away coming. He detonates, I believe it's the briefcase or something else, and the building kind of implodes with her in it. And she basically tells him, she kind of apologizes. She kind of has a moment of clarity there, and tells, or leads, I should say, Zane on his next mission by delivering him a name that he didn't know anything about. And at the end, I think Lucian, one of the other seers, realizes one of her fellow seers is dead, and he's like, well, that's too bad. She's like, no. He has a name. He knows now. So Zane's obviously onto something here. So, the game is still afoot. Now, I love this. We're 24 issues in, and it's been a couple of years as I guess you're reading this, and time has skipped a few months here and there too, as we're talking about this. But it's just such a joyful romp this whole series has been, and it's been a big surprise to me how entertaining. I knew I loved it, but I'm loving it even more. I'll talk more about all that next time.